like to invite you to stay for the talk Crossroads of Humans and Pits in Covilhã Valley by the architect Carrilho da Graça from Carrilho da Graça Arquitetos. Mr. Architect, you're welcome on stage.
Ponha ali ao pé da cadeira. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Posso pousar aqui? Hello, good evening. I'm very used to speak to architects, my colleagues and students, and not so much to the other people. I hope this, what I'm going to show is going to be useful. For me, it's always very interesting to show my work because I like very much to discuss architecture. And what I like better is the questions you are going to ask me in the end, if you want, or if you want to interrupt me during the presentation. I'm going to speak about the data center of Portugal Telecom in Covilhã, and this was really a very interesting experience. This is the highest mountain in Portugal, as you know, Serra da Estrela. And I always like very much to refer this huge mountain, a kind of granitic mountain. And there we have the valley, a very huge also valley, very fertile and very, very important in the history of Portugal, because this is one of the main spaces for agriculture in the center of Portugal. Now we see here the little airport that was deactivated, where after a very big research, Portugal Telecom decided to build the data center in here. They studied mostly the climate and the disponibility of the space. And the climate was very interesting for the purpose of using free cooling, a force there passing through the IT rooms that creates a huge economy. Here we go on seeing the Serra da Estrela, the city of Covilhã. Here we see in a photomontage a pedestrian bridge that I made before this project in Covilhã, that I like very much. And there you can see the little airport deactivated. And this is a very interesting position because we are in this so big valley, as I referred, but then this is a little elevation in this context of the low spaces, very fertile spaces. I don't know if maybe it was better to cut the light, because I think the image is, yes, is better. And that one, if you need, for the video maybe. Okay, so we see the mountain. We are upon the aerodrome, the little airport, and we see the city of Covilhã. This site is beautiful, as you can see. This was the point of departure. That was the project made by Royal Asconing, a Dutch company, design company. And this is a kind of common project. They are very used to do projects for data centers. These are the IT buildings, 4, with 2 main levels, and the side spaces to give energy, let's say, to the main areas, and here the support building. This was the presentation of these first studies was very useful and very interesting for me, because from here I began to think what can I do with this kind of brief, with this kind of program and the problems in the site that was given. You can imagine that we are not seeing things very interesting from the architectonic point of view, and they were aware of this, but this was as a presentation. I was present in a workshop where they presented these studies to the PT, and it was very, very useful for me. I thought that it was interesting to imagine that the IT buildings were more compact than what you have seen. And I imagine with several levels to create a kind of capacity that is always very, very much economic. And I thought that it was interesting to have the building directly built upon the earth, but to surround it with a very big area of water. The water is very important in this project. The project for a data center is mainly a project for a system to create in security the access to a very great amount of energy, electric power, and after, inside the buildings, to dissipate the calories that are created by the work of the computers. And the water is very interesting and very useful because we use it for air conditioning and also to create a kind of interesting space that you are going to see a little bit. So I thought that it was maybe possible to have this level of water surrounding the IT buildings that are built upon the earth, and then to have the office buildings with the view to the water and to the mountain. And these were my first sketches on this project. I began to think that if I have the water and the building, the building is going to reflect on the water, and we can work with the dimensions we are creating and with the peculiar image that we create with the water and the apparent opposition between a very strong need of power and also the presence of water. The presence of water, this is an image of a dam in the Serra da Estrela, a beautiful dam. And the question here was to create the physical support for the cloud. And also we thought that if we have this kind of reflective water, we can have always the reflection of the clouds in the sky. This is another sketch, always thinking that we can have a kind of core inside, and then we can have spaces that work around this inner core. And the question that we have to have access very, very freely to let the the air pass through the spaces that are overheated with the working computers. This is a more complex sketch, but very near of the final result, where we can see the water around the 4 buildings. This is not easy. Around the 4 buildings. Here a kind of indication of the position for the support building, for the offices, with view both to the trees that surround the building, the complex, and also to the mountain, and to the city, and of course to the water. And this idea of having a very simple, let's say, result with simple buildings and everything that is complicated under the water. This is one of the first models to try to understand what it could result with the space of the little airport and the other spaces around, and the complex here with the view to the mountain. I work very often with this kind of models that are not at all precise, but where I put everything I have around to try to, this is the road and the other buildings that we have to consider, like an hotel, research buildings, universities, things like that. And everything inside a kind of green park that surrounds all this space and occupies the space of the little airport. This is another version of the first model. Here we see more linear the space of the offices that changed after. The trees that seems to be very useful in this space to create this kind of campus atmosphere with a very big concentration. This is a prefiguration of the first module. If we only build the support building and only one of the buildings, to understand that is the situation now. Now we have more or less this with the different form. But we were trying to evaluate if the result was possible, and it was considered possible because we create a kind of facade towards the entrance, and we can after go on in this direction, like this, with 2 modules, or 3, or 4. We thought from the beginning that it was interesting to have a system, a metallic system that allows the air to pass in a great volume and speed. And we researched for some possible references. This is a photo montage with the building, the area of the airport, and the area that is considered to study around this space. In green you see the water. The office building and the water. This model is much more precise. The dimensions are very similar to the result. We have 55 meters a square, and the height from here to the water is 27 meters, more or less. So when we have the reflection on the water, we have a cubic form. This is not so important, but for us is a kind of reference. And then we can see the office building that looks to the mountain and the city, and also to the water. Here is the entrance we are going to see with more detail. Another photograph of the same model. Under the water, we have a kind of factory ambience, and the trucks goes and can circulate around the technical buildings. And here you have an image of the ground level under the water with these how can I say, generators, electricity generators, and lots of technical devices and the technical spaces, the technical entrance, and then the trucks circulate in this area, and we are always under the water. More or less the same level, but with the parking area, with the entrance from here. And this is one of the standard levels with the entrance. You have a view to the water and to the building. You have the office areas, both sides. And here you have the technical buildings with the core, with the computers, the IT rooms. In section, you can imagine here the mountain and the level of work and the 3 levels of IT, and the upper level with the machinery we are going to see a little bit. And you can imagine that we have a very incredible quality of life in these working areas. We are going to see a little bit. Another section, this was very initial drawings with the parking area, the office building, and the technical building, and there the mountain. What I tried to add to the project that we have seen before is to incorporate the site and the possibilities that the site was giving us in a climatic sense, and atmosphere, views, etc. This is another model, more detailed, with the water and the reflection of the technical buildings. This is a render, a computer image that we have made, imagining from the entrance. This is the lobby, the entrance. You see the water, the technical building that creates a kind of very strong monolithic and very strong presence, the mountain, and the office building. This is another image of the water, also a render with the reflection of the building and the system we have created near the entrance and the water. This is the building completed, but the photos are not very good, and the water was not at the level it should be. But we can see that the result is very close to the images we have seen. This is the inside spaces of the offices, but these photographs are made by us. Architects are not the very good photographs I usually have, because we had not yet the possibility to do them, maybe next week. We always ask for the help of graphic artist, Nuno Guzmão, that works with us to choose the colors and to put all the indications we need. This is the parking area before the cars. After the cars. The building in the landscape. Under construction, with the reflection on the water, but the water now is a kind of black mirror. The structure is prefabricated to be able to build it more quickly. These are images during the construction. Now here we are at the level of the, let's say, factory use under the water. Here we see the facade, the system. It's aluminum, polished aluminum. The access areas to the IT rooms. The IT rooms, still empty. And that's all. If you want to ask, this is my room.
Okay, it's now open for questions.
Yes. As you know, I like very much to answer to all your questions.
Okay, we have one here.
If I'm able.
We have one from Paul, just up front here, just in front of me. Yeah, I have a mic.
Yes, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Anyway, my question is the reason for the water all about heat dissipation of the IT, or is it more... Is the water there?
Yes.
To help with the dissipation of the heat that's created by the IT?
Yes, it's connected to the air conditioning, and it's a system for helping the dissipation of heat.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? So, when you, Arquiteto Carrilho da Graça, when you look to this building, I think the first question most of us have, but they're maybe too shy to ask you, is why go to such a lengthy way? Go so far and do such a beautiful building for what is an essentially utilitarian data center factory.
Yes.
So this seems kind of the building that Steve Jobs would do if he had to do ask for a data center.
But I think that question is better to ask to the PT people that were so enthusiastic for architecture. The story they told me, and I like it very much, that's why I'm going to repeat it, is that the CEO went to Covilhã to visit the site and to see the city, and he went with the mayor to see the bridge that I made there, and he liked it so much that he was interested in my architecture for that building. This is the kind of situation every architect dreams, because we like very much to be chosen by our ideas, by our project, by our approach. And this was a very good, very interesting situation for me to be able to be invited to do the project, the design, and also to have these preliminary studies that were made by a very specialized firm that gave me the startup, the point of departure for the project. But evidently, I worked with with engineers with an incredible expertise in these kind of buildings, and also with architects that are very experienced in these kind of buildings. And so all this situation gave me a very big freedom to go further. And they were enthusiastic, and we made it.
So what has been the national, international feedback regarding the data center architecture specifically?
During the design and the construction, I have not very much showed the project because they wanted a certain confidentiality. And now that is inaugurated very recently, we are waiting for next week to do the first good photographs and to begin publishing the building. For the architects, the reception is always very good because we like to introduce a kind of humanity in these very huge and difficult briefs. And for me, it was very interesting. I think it's going to be a success in this point of view because the working spaces are very interesting, very agreeable. And also from the point of view of the economy of energy and the work of the functionality of the main technical buildings, it's very good because we concentrated very much, but we created the best, let's say, design to have an incredible economy and security.
Thank you. I think we are pretty much done, so I would like to thank Architect Carrilho for your wonderful presentation.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.